Welcome to Java Development and Testing Tools webinar from JPassion.com. Today's topic is Mockito. And next week we are going to cover Selenium, and that will be the end of this webinar series on Java Development and Testing Tools. In the future, I'll put the recording of Fitnessy and Aquilium. So the labs are over, in the website. So you're welcome to try those two as well. So let's move on to presentation. Mockito. So we'll talk about what is and why you want to use Mockito, and we'll see how you can use Mockito and how to get started and integration with other tools. So what is and why Mockito? Mockito is a mocking framework, and it lets you write tests with a very clean and simple API. And Mockito tests are in fact very readable, and they produce clean verification errors. And this Mockito is actually considered better mocking framework than any other mocking framework out there. So this is probably the most popular mocking framework for Java platform. So this one. This is Dan North. He is actually originator of behavior-driven development, and he is actually using Mockito as actually his main testing framework, mocking framework. Okay, so use Mockito to get smart fake implementations of classes or interfaces out of your reach. So basically the reason that you want to use mocking framework is because you do not want, suppose if you have some dependency object, and if you don't want to actually have that dependency, real dependency object, then you can mock it. So that's the idea of mocking framework, and same thing for Mockito. So how to use Mockito? So basically these are the APIs. So you can create a mock object using mock, and then the class to mock class. So this could be either interface or class. Typically it's going to be interface. And then you can prepare your mock object by calling when a method of that mock object gets called. You want to have the value of this to be returned, or throw an exception. Okay, so we'll see examples of this one in the following slides, so don't worry about it, for the details. And then you can check whether a method that was actually called here, the method is in fact invoked by the test target, class. And instead of actually creating mock object using this API, you can actually use annotation now. So you can use @mock annotation. And init mocks. So when you are using annotations, you also have to actually call init mocks, and so we'll see how that could be done. And then you can actually perform some assert operations. Question from Robin: what is the difference between JUnit and Mockito? So JUnit is actually testing. You're still using JUnit to test your your logic, okay? Mockito is the mocking framework in which, so we're gonna actually explain this Mockito in the rest of the presentation. So why don't you actually wait, and you can actually get the answer, okay, at the end of this presentation. Okay, so can you give us a little introduction to mocking concept? Okay, so since this is in fact the same question like at Robin, so let me actually talk about the concept of mocking. So in general, your class has a dependency on another class or interface, right? So when you are actually trying to test, suppose you got a test, class X, and again that X has a dependency on Y, and when you want to actually test your target class X, you do not want to have Y, because you might not in fact have Y available because Y is actually built by someone else, right? And so you want to actually mock Y, which is a dependency of an X for testing X. That's basically what the mocking is all about. Okay, so it's a very simple concept. You are actually providing fake the object for your testing, and that faking is basically mocking. Okay. Alright, so let's move on. So this is a class called 3A test. So, when you're actually performing a test, you arrange something, and then you act on it, and then you actually verify the results. So arrange, act, and assert. So these are typical 3A test. So basically you arrange, for example, you want a unit test. So this is the your test target class, and this helper is basically a dependency of this guy. So this helper class is going to be used by your target test class, okay? And then you're going to call your target class method, and then passing maybe the helper object. So this is the dependency object, and then see whether you actually see, then you actually see whether you got the right result or not, okay? So this is the case that you are going to use a Mockito. So here you create the the helper object. This is the way that you are going to actually create a mock object, and then so in this case we are assuming the test T class has been created already. Okay, so you are actually preparing your mock object. So when this method of your mock object gets called, you want to make sure your mock object returns true. So you are basically, because you don't have a real mock object, meaning real dependency object, you have to prepare, sometimes you use the term train. You have to train your mock object to behave in a certain way. So this is the way that you can train your mock object, meaning when that mock object is called method of the mock object gets called, I want that mock object to return true. So in this case true, or it can actually return something else. Okay, and then you're gonna actually call your test target method, passing your mock object, and then you can actually perform some assertion to test whether your test target is in fact behave correctly. And another thing that you can actually do is you can check whether your mock object method is invoked by your test class. Okay, your test class. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna actually move on to the presentation, and you guys can actually see the testing code when we do the hands-on lab. So I'm gonna actually hold off some of the questions that you guys have on this. Okay, so I understand that if you have not used any mocking framework, this could be a little bit too new to you. Okay. Alright, so these are the things that you can call for your mock object. So when method is called, you can actually return a value. So this is basically you are training your mock object. Okay, so that when mock object method is called, that mock object will return this value. And this is the way that you can train your mock object. When a mock object method is called, you want that mock object to return some exception. Okay, so these are the way. So when and then is basically the way that you can train your mock object. Okay, so when that mock object is used inside your test target class, that mock object will behave this way. So this is an example. So suppose I have a mock object. So I'm actually trying to mock the property class. So properties class is actually built in Java class. So this is not your custom class, but you can actually mock any interface or Java class. Okay. So I have created a mock object, which is a type of properties class, and then I'm preparing the mock. So meaning when I'm trying to get the value of this shoe size property, I want it to return 42. So this is the way that I am training my mock object. Okay, so that mock object get method is called with the shoe size, it will always return 42. Okay. Now I can actually call so I can actually call myself. Typically this method is going to be called inside your test class because your test class will have a dependency on your properties class. Okay, but you can actually call properties.get and shoe size and set the result. Okay, and then you can also check the result, and now you can actually verify whether your properties mock object in fact is invoked with the get method with shoe size. So basically this is the way that you want to make sure your test target class in fact called your mock object method. In this example, we don't have a test target class, so this is typically called inside your test target class, but we just kind of call it ourselves, okay, just for testing purpose. I'm guessing, it's a question from Robin. I'm guessing the background of Mockito is AOP. Is that correct? No. It has nothing to do with the AOP. Okay. All right. So moving forward. So again, let's actually wait until we actually play around with the hands-on lab. Okay. So we'll have a better understanding. Okay. So this is the when method. So when method is called, these are the examples that you can actually pass. You can actually pass whatever value you want, 42 as a string, or the equal 42, or you can actually pass any string. Okay, all right. Then return value is so basically it returns 42. Yeah, so this is example that we have seen already. Okay. This is a throw exception. Okay, so again, this is an example. Okay, so you create a mock object, and so when you're actually calling get method with something incorrect, then you want basically you want the mock object to throw this new illegal argument exception. Okay, so in your testing code, you could actually see whether in fact it failed or not. Okay, so this is the JUnit code. Okay, I mean, inside the JUnit you will actually have this code. Then return. So here you can actually return these three different values. Okay, so this is another way that you can actually use a then return. So then return method could actually take a multiple types of arguments. Okay, so the way that you can actually, so then return will have in fact the multiple overloaded method. Okay. Okay, so creating a mocking object, option 1. So this is the example we have seen so far. You are going to call mock method of Mockito. This is a static method of the Mockito class, and then you provide your mocking class. Typically, it's going to be interface, but it could be a class as well. Okay, and then you got the mock object. Okay, so this is So this is the case that you have imported it, and here I'm actually using the full path. Okay. So, this mock method is a static method of your Mockito class, and you provide your interface or class that you want to mock. And option number 2 is you can use mock annotation. So here I want to create a mocking object of this class to mock, okay, and then I can actually use this. Okay, so this is the same thing as this. Okay. Now, when you're using this annotation, you have to call Mockito annotations init mocks. Okay, and I'll actually explain another option of calling these mocks. Okay, how to get started? Basically, if you are using Maven, basically in order to use Mockito, all you have to do is to have Mockito.jar file in your class path. Okay, and this is a Maven artifact. Okay. Integration with other tools. So pretty much all the IDEs have a Mockito support, and also you can use Ant, Maven, and also Mockito could be used with continuous integration tools such as Hudson or Jenkins. All right, so that's the end of the presentation. So let's move on to the hands-on lab. Okay, so we are going to try we're going to actually try with the simple iterator. So in this case, we are basically testing whether iterator built-in Java class is behaving as expected. So we are not really testing our custom class, but we are testing built-in Java class of iterator. Okay, so we're going to just run the testing, and it will succeed. Okay, so let's see the code. So this is my test code. Okay, so you can see this is actually using JUnit. Okay, so inside the JUnit, you're gonna actually mark your object for your dependencies and do the testing. So here we create a mock object of iterator interface. Okay, and so we got this iterator type of mock object. Okay, and then we train our mock object Meaning when the next method of this iterator mock object gets called, I want it to return hello. Okay? And the second time I'm actually calling it, it will return hello. I'm sorry, the word. Okay? So you can in fact chain the mock object. Okay? And then we are going to call I next. So this time, because this is the first time I'm actually calling this mock object, it will return hello, right? And then I'm going to call it again. This time it will return hello. So this result has to be hello world. Okay, so we're actually comparing the result with hello world, and that should succeed. Okay, and this time this is an example that we are mocking compatible interface. Again, this is a built-in Java interface, built-in Java interface, meaning it's an interface that comes with the JDK. So we want to make sure that the compatible Java interface is behaving as expected, as we want. So here, when we are actually testing, when we are calling compare to method of this compatible mock object with the value of test, I want it to return to 1. Okay, and then I'm actually calling that method compare to and test, and it should return result. Okay, so so we are basically testing our mocking object. Okay, again, typically you are going to call these these things inside your testing target method, but we actually behaving as we are behaving. This code is also test target method as well. Okay. So that a couple of other examples. Okay, so let's actually try that. So iterator. So this is the testing code. We don't have any custom code because we are actually testing the built-in Java class. Okay, so this is the code that I just showed you. So this is iterator. Okay, so let's actually try this guy. Okay, run as and JUnit test. Oh, I probably have to run it from here. Oh, I have to actually build it first. Okay. Question from Yavor. Can we call a method for which we haven't trained mock object? Well, what's the point of doing it? Okay, you have to train it so that you actually want it to behave in a way you want. Okay, yeah. If you have not trained it, then the return it's gonna behave in a way that there is no definition, so it will in fact fail. Okay. So run as run test JUnit test. Okay, so it succeeded. So this is the succeed. Okay, so now let's actually make a change. So here, the way that I train this guy is, when I call iterator, it will return hello, right? So I want to train it. It will return hello 1. Okay, and in that case, it will fail. Okay, so let's because it will return hello 1, but I'm actually comparing with the hello world here, right? Okay, so let's rebuild it. And then I'm gonna call it. This time it failed. Okay, yeah, so it failed. Yeah, so it says expected is hello world, but what was returned is hello 1. Okay, all right. So let's just change it back. Okay, moving forward. Now, that is a case that we are actually testing our mock object directly. So we are not using our own test target class. So the real life, you're going to actually have your own test target class. So this is an example. So in this case, we have a test target class called a forecast. Okay. And this forecast has a dependency on itemp, ICD-temp. Okay. So let's see the code. Okay. So here we have the test target class of forecast, and then it has a dependency on itemp. Okay. And then we have a testing code. So this is typically the case, so this is a dependency that you want to actually have it inside your target, test target class. Okay. So this is your test target. This is a collaborator, dependency. So so let me actually show you the test target class first. So this is a forecast test target class. This guy has a dependency on ICD-temp. Okay. So, assuming this ICD-temp is developed by somebody else, you don't want to have you don't want to actually have you want to actually have this one as, as a mock object. Okay. So so it's actually using, and then it actually get that object in the constructor, and then it's calling the method of the mock object. So the method of mock object has a getCD method. Okay, so inside this test target class, you're calling mock object getCD method. So the mock object has the multiple method like a getCD, setCD, getTemperature, and setTemperature. Okay, and so you want to actually train your mock object to behave in a way you want, so that you can actually test your test target class or forecast. Okay, so let's see the test class. So first of all, you are going to create a mock object. Okay, so you are going to create a mock object of ICD-temp. Okay, because that's the dependency of your test target class or forecast, right? And now you have to call this Mockito annotation with the init mocks method. Okay, somewhere. In this case, I'm calling it inside the constructor method. The reason is because whenever you're using this mock annotation, you have to initialize this annotated mock. So this is something that you have to do. Okay, and now this is the testing code. So this is a JUnit testing code of test medium temperature. So this is our test target class. I'm basically testing forecast test target class of so basically I'm testing forecast class which has a dependency on item. Okay, so I created a forecast test class, and this is expected result, and then we are going to train the mock object. So I am going to train the mock object. When the getTemperature method of that mock object gets called, I want it to return 65.0. And when getCD method of that mock object gets called, I want it to return Addis Ababa. Okay? Alright. So this is the way that I train my mock object. And then I'm calling a method of my test target class. So the test target that I'm actually, a test method of my target class that I'm actually testing is weather forecast. Okay, so this is the result. Okay, and then I check. Okay, so basically I'm checking the actual result versus the expected result. So these are JUnit testing, right? These are all JUnit testing. This is the Mockito code in which I'm actually trained my mock object, because that mock object is going to be used inside my test target class method of weather forecast. And then this is the Mockito code. Here I'm actually verifying whether my mock object getCD method is in fact called once. Okay, so just to make sure you understand, this is the Mockito code. These two, okay, this when and verify is Mockito code, and the rest of it is from JUnit testing code. Okay. All right. So this is the forecast testing code, test target. And as you can see, it has a dependency on ICD-temp class. Okay. So, so now it's actually using getCD method. Okay. And inside this code, when the weather forecast method is called in your test class here, it will call getCD method of your mock object just once. Right. So it has if and else method. It will call just once. Okay, so that will verify. Okay, so if you say number 2 times 2, that means you're verifying that getCD method of your mock object called twice. Okay, and in fact, in this case, it will call just once, so that will fail. Okay, so let's run this guy. So that is weather forecast. So we are going to, let's just verify the code. This is my target, the test code as I showed you. Okay. 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 This is a test code, and then we have the test target class of the forecast, and then the dependency ICD-temp. And this is the one, because it's a dependency that is using your test target class, you want to mark this guy. Okay, and that's what we have done here. Okay, so we just mark this dependency. Okay, so let's run this guy. So let's build it first. And then let's run as JUnit, and it succeeded. Okay, now let's actually make a change. So what we want to do is we want to actually verify, let's actually make it this one too, meaning I want to make sure that getCity method gets called twice. Okay, and it will fail because the getCity method is going to be called just once, testing code, right? Okay, so let's rebuild it again. Oh, that's failed. Oh, it says it does actually do the testing. So testing actually failed. Okay, so when you actually try to call this guy, it will fail as well. Okay, so JUnit test. So as you can see, it failed. Okay, so basically the result is here. So here, wanted twice, meaning I want this getCity method of my mock object to be called twice, but it was called just once. Okay, so that actually that actually gives you a sense of how the mocking, the verification works. Okay, so let's just change that code. Oh, let me just move on. I'm gonna just change it later. Okay, so that is that. Okay, now testing item controller. This is another example. In this case, test target class that we are going to use is item controller, and this item controller has a dependency on item service Java interface. So we want to mark this item service object, when we are testing the item controller. Okay, so again, let's see the code. So this is the dependency. So this item, the service, is the one that we want to mark. Okay, and this is a test class. So here we are marking this item service object with @mark. Okay, now we don't have to call the mark my init class method this case, because we're actually running with mark to JRunner class. If you actually running with it, then the initialization of the mark, the annotation is not needed. Okay. All right. So here in the setup, I created my test target class. Okay. And then I'm preparing mock object, meaning I'm training my object. So when the item get so here we create an item object first, and then we are going to get the ID of that item object. Okay. Which is supposed to be 1, this guy. And then when we call the getItem method of this mock object, I want it return the item object itself. Okay, so this is basically training my mock object in a way I want it to behave. Okay, and then we actually perform a test with that test target class of item controller. So when we call the view item method of my test target class of item controller, it's inside this method, it should call the, the item service get item method. Okay. And then we actually verify the result is actually the same. Okay. This is the case that we are actually testing the exception. So here we are again preparing or training our mock object. So when we are passing number 5, because we don't have any item number 5 yet, right? It will return this item not found exception. So I'm training my mock object to throw an exception when we are passing, invalid ID, item ID. Okay. So then we actually call our target class's view item method passing number 5, and inside it will call the get item method of my mock object, and it should return the exception. Okay, and then we are basically checking whether the exception that was returned is the same as we expected. Okay, this is a delete item. So when we actually call delete item, to verify that so basically, when we actually do the testing, we want to make sure the delete item method of this our mock object gets called with 5. Okay, so we just verify whether that has been in fact called, because we are just calling. So what we are testing is that we are calling our test target classes delete item method passing 5. Inside of it, it should actually call the item services mock object delete item, right? So we are verifying that is in fact happened. Okay, and so this is our test target class as we have seen before. So this test target class has a dependency against this item service dependency mock object. So we create that one, here. Okay, we just have it here. Okay, and the view item method of this our target class should call the get item method of our mock object. Okay, and the delete item should actually call the get item method of our mock object. Okay, so let's run this guy. So this is the item controller, and again build it. So question from Yavor, can we use mock to test a static method called yes? The Mockito is very flexible. You can actually test anything, pretty much anything that you have in mind, right? Pretty much all the things that you do in your Java code. So JUnit test, and you should succeed. Okay. All right. So let me move on to a more important topic. How to actually use Mockito for building behavior-driven or test-driven development, the development environment. Okay, so mock object can be used to enable test-driven development approach for building your application. Meaning, the test-driven development is basically you want to actually write your testing code first, right? And then you are going to add business logic to basically, make sure that testing code succeeds. Okay, so that's basically test-driven development. So in many cases, when you are building a class, that class has a dependencies, right? So that's the time that you want to create a mock object. Okay. All right. So here we are going to create what is called the login service project. Okay. So we're actually, trying to build some application that performs some logging. Okay, so we are going to create the Maven project. Okay, I'm going to just do the first exercise. I'm going to show you the documentation. Then we're going to actually build the first one together. Okay. Okay, so here we created the login. So that's testing scenario 1 is, we haven't write any code at all at this point, and we want to write a testing code first. Okay. So what we want to test is that when a user login is successful, we want to check. We want to make sure that the account state of the user is set to logged in. So this is a business logic that I want to implement. So using test-driven development scenario, you want to write the testing code first. Okay. So you're going to actually write the login service test code. So I'm going to actually call it login service test.java. Okay. Right, so why don't I actually build things? Okay, so I'm going to create the new Maven project. So Maven project, and I'm going to call it login service. Okay, and oh, filter. And I don't want any filter here. So I want to actually have the quick start. Quick start. This one. Let me see. That's the one I want. Maven archetype quick start. Yeah, that's what I want. Okay. And I'm gonna call it login service. And already exists, so I'm gonna just use login service 3 and finish. Okay, so we haven't written any single code yet. Now we are going to try to test the logic. When a user logged in, we're gonna set the state into a login state. Okay, so this is what we have done. Okay, so we are gonna actually create a testing code. So we're gonna actually write the testing code on the SRC Java. Okay, so we're gonna create a new class called the login service test. Okay, so this is the one. So we are going to create test class. So we're going to create the class right here. Class and login test. Finish. Okay, so we have this login test. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to add some method. So basically, this is the code that I want to actually test it. Okay, so let me just copy these things first. Okay, and then I'm going to explain this code. Okay, so we have a bunch of the the compilers. That's fine because we haven't really imported anything. So you have to change the pom.xml file. Okay, so let me actually explain the code first, and then we'll change the pom.xml file. So we are creating test method. It should set account logged in when password matches. Okay, so in order to do that, we need to create account. We need a mock object of iAccount, right? So basically you need the account kind of class, which is a dependency. So we are going to create a mock object of iAccount class, and then we are going to train that the iAccount object. So when password matches, and this time I want actually I should be able to pass any password, and then it should return true. Okay. Now we also need to have account repository class, right? So we are also creating iAccount repository mock object. Okay. And again, we are training that iAccount repository the mock object. So when I'm actually trying to find anything from that repository, account repository, it should return the account object itself. Okay. So I create this account object here, and then it should actually return account object when I'm sending something. Okay, and then I'm gonna create. This is my test target class, login service. So login service has a dependency on account repository, and account repository itself has a dependency on account, right? Okay, and then I'm going to call login method or my target class of login class with some username and password. And then I verify whether my logging the mock object of account gets called. The mock object get a set logged in method is called just once. Okay, so these are kind of testing code that I have to reflect the business logic that I want to create. Okay, all right. So let's actually change the pom.xml file so that we have this Mockito dependency. So I'm going to just copy these dependencies. And you want to use for that one. For 1.0. Use it for that 1.0. Okay, so now we save it, and then we should actually see some of the Mockito compile errors is gone. Now we have these compile errors still because we don't have any IAccount class, we don't have any IAccount repository class, we don't have any login class. Okay, so we are gonna actually create this interface. So we're gonna just create interface IAccount and finish. Okay, so what we want to do is we are going to create this IAccount interface class. So this is what I just have done. And we know that we need these two methods, right? Set logged in and the password matches. So we're going to actually copy these two into here. Okay, and for the same reason, we have to actually create the IAccount repository dependency as well. So we're going to create the interface and finish. And again, we are going to copy this guy and here. So as you can see, I'm actually building my application. So by the way, this code should be in your target in a source message and Java, right? So I'm going to just move on this guy to right here and here, because we want to have a testing code separate from the test target class. Okay, and now the last one. So these two guys are actually all set. Now we need to create the login service class, right? So we're going to create the create login service. Okay, and finish. So login service, the code that we have to have is, we have to have these two, method. Okay, this is a constructor and this is login method. So we are going to add login service. Okay, so save. Okay, now the compilers are gone. Okay, so what you can do at this point is we're going to actually try, save all the changes, and then we're going to actually run the test. Okay, and it will fail because the verification will fail. Okay, so let's run this guy. Run as unit test. Okay, so it failed, and let's see how it failed. So what it says is this: wanted but not invoked. That means the dependency mock object set login method is supposed to be called because we actually did a verification, but it's not called. Okay, so that is, in this test code, what we have done was we verify whether the set login method is called, meaning the account dependency object, meaning that mock object set login method should be called once, but this has not been called. Okay, so that's the reason it's actually complaining about that. Okay, so we are going to correct that problem. Okay, so I just explained this. So now we are going to actually change login service code so that it's in fact actually has the some logic. So it does have a IAccount repository. Okay, so it's going to actually IAccount repository class, and then it's going to find that account, and it's going to call the set login method. So this is, when we actually do this, this is going to call the mock object IAccount of set login method. So that should work. Okay, the verification should succeed. So we are going to just copy this code, and we're going to change login service like this, and save the change. Okay, now we're gonna run the verification. We're gonna run the test. This time it should succeed. Okay, so basically what we have done so far is that we actually wrote the testing code first for the business logic of when a user logged in with a particular username and password, the set login method of dependency object is called to actually set the the login state. Okay, so that's the business logic that we create a testing code first, and then write the test target class, real business logic, and then verified it. Okay, so that is the first exercise. So that should work. Okay, so the solution is also provided as a login service project in the solutions Maven directory. Test scenario 2 is, now I'm going to just explain using the documentation. So here, this time, what we want to do is that when a user tries to log in 3 times with invalid login name, we want the account to be revoked. So this is the business logic that we want to implement. Okay. So again, we are going to write a testing code first, and then we are going to add our real business logic. Okay. So here we are adding another method. This is a testing method. So it said it should set account to be revoked after 3 failed login attempts. Okay. So again, we are going to this time we are going to train our mock object. So when password matches method is invoked, we want to return false. Okay. Because we don't actually simulate this failure. Okay. So we want it fail all the time so that we can actually make it to fail when we call 3 times. Okay, of the login method. And then so this is actually this is the same, the method that we have for this one as well. Okay. And then we create a login service, and now this is your testing code. So when I call the login method or my service, the login service, sorry about that, login service 3 times, it should fail. Okay, and then we are going to verify that set revoked method is in fact called once. So I want to make sure that my mock object, account mock object, set revoked method is called just once. Okay, so this is the Mockito code of verifying whether that dependencies mock object method gets called just once. Okay. All right, so here again we are seeing the set that we just figured, we got the compile error indicating that there is no set revoked method on your account. Okay, so you're going to create one. So again, this is actually the model of test-driven development. You are writing your testing code, okay, indicating that this is the method I need for my target class. Okay, so you're going to create the target class in your the target, in this case, I account, the mock object, the mock interface type. So we are actually adding this guy. And then we save the change, and then we do the unit testing. And then again, we have the same errors. Okay, so meaning this I account set revoked method is supposed to be invoked once, but it has not been invoked, meaning your test target class has not been called anything that actually trigger this method of your mock object to be invoked. So we're going to actually change our testing target class of log service. This time, we are going to actually add this business logic. So this is a real business logic. So when the password matches failed, okay, 3 times, okay, and we are going to call set revoked method of this mock object. Okay, this type, account type. So this is a real business logic that I'm actually adding code to remove the test failure. Okay, so once you save the change, and then you can actually, you can test it and it should work. Now clean up the test code. So you are doing a little bit of refactoring. So we have actually 2. In this case, we have, if you actually see the code here. The duplication, we have a duplication of this. Okay, so they're actually preparing each of these tests. So we are going to actually have this duplication of code. This is basically setup method. The functions that you want to set up before you call any of your testing code. So we are actually moving this duplicate code into setup method. That is the refactoring. So, you do refactor to this, and then your testing method, this guy and this guy, is simplified. Okay? And again, that's basically how things work. And testing S3 is a set login method now called when password.match. Okay, so again, this is something that I'm going to actually ask you to do. So again, this actually kind of provides a flavor of test-driven development in which you are actually using Mockito framework to provide a mock object, and then you are actually adding logics to your test target classes. Okay, so I'm going to just finish